Hi, I'm Marnie.
Hi, I'm Sammee.
And today we're talking about hearing voices.
Am I? I don't know yet.
It could be quite scary to hear, see or sense something that others don't, but there are ways to cope. So what are some of the things that people might experience?
So it could be like you feel different sort of hallucinations, like the different type of hallucinations. There's like auditory, which is like things that you can hear. There's visual, things that you can see. Olfactory, so things that you can smell. Touch as well, sometimes you can feel things that aren't really there.
So what advice would you give to someone who's hearing voices for the first time?
Try not to be afraid of what's happening, because I think the more you're afraid of it, the less you're inclined to face the problem that's at hand. The best thing is to be verbal, speak to someone. If you're not ready to speak to someone, keep a diary log of what's happening and what you're hearing and what you're experiencing. So when you do come to speak to someone, there is some sort of, if you don't want to verbally talk about it, or if you're ashamed, there's something that you can just show, like, look, this is what I've been going through. You know, if it's writing poetry, or whether it's drawing a picture or anything. Because I found it really difficult in the beginning to speak openly about it. So if it is the first time you're experiencing it, the best thing is to have your log and to have things that you can, look, this is what I went through at this time and this time and this time. So I can't really speak to you about it right now, but here's what I've been going through.
So it sounds like it could be quite different for different people.
Yeah, definitely. So I had lots of olfactory hallucinations, so things that I could smell things that weren't really, other people couldn't smell. People feel like people touching me or hearing different type of voices.
And what did that feel like when you were hearing those things?
In the initial stages, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was frightening at all. It was more of a like an imaginary friend sort of vibe, if that makes sense. Like it was just kind of like they were like
comforting.
Sort of, yeah, it was more like comforting. They were more like my mates. If it sounds weird to say, like they were sort of like people that I could converse with. Obviously, as I got on older, more into my teens and in my early adult years, like it became a lot more volatile and a lot more hostile. The voices started to change, and even some of the smells started to change.
What did you do when you were having those negative thoughts, hearing those negative things? I
feel like in the earlier years, I was very like afraid, and I didn't want to speak about it when it first started coming around.
So it almost felt quite isolating in a way? Like
yeah, definitely, because you notice that a lot of people aren't experiencing what you're experiencing. Like if I'm hearing something and I say to my mate, oh, did you hear that? And they'll be like, no. Like, is your phone ringing? They'll be like, no. Like little things, and it just kind of makes you feel like, oh, maybe I'm a bit different to everybody else.
So hearing voices is actually quite common. 1 in 10 young people will experience hearing voices. What are some of the reasons that they might experience them?
I think there's like loads of reasons. Trauma can trigger a lot of hearing voices, mental health problems, even stress and anxiety can put it on.
Drinking, taking drugs might trigger that as well.
You just might not even know why you're hearing voices, and it just might just be something happening to you, and you don't really know why it's happening.
Because people often want a reason for something, but sometimes there might not be.
I think the main thing is just finding out how you can cope with it later on.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of the things that might help in that moment? So you're hearing voices, you know, it might be that you want to calm yourself down or take yourself out of that situation. What are some of the things you could do?
I try and do things that distract my mind or try and keep me busy, like for example makeup or drawing or writing poetry or anything like that. So anything that can really distract your mind from what is actually going on. But sometimes you can be so far deep in it that you actually can't take yourself out of the situation. So sometimes it's good to have added help or being able to speak about it if you are feeling a certain way. If you can tell someone around you, look, I'm starting to hear something, or I'm starting to experience whatever you're experiencing, and as long as you can verbalise it, the person in front of you could possibly help you.
So what are some of the other things that might help you cope longer term?
So trying to keep a log and a diary of sort of if your symptoms and what's been going on, and speaking openly to people. It's better out than even if you can't verbally say it, write a letter, put it in a letter for someone that can help you. If you're at school and you're still in school, speak to your teachers. If it does start to get more severe and more life-changing,
like making a real big impact
it's making a massive impact on your life, then the best thing to do is to speak to your GP. Have your log and explain how long it's been going on for, and explain the effects it really is having on your life. Possibly even go in with a family member or someone that
you trust.
Someone that you trust, and someone that can also see a noticeable difference in how you've been behaving and how things are going for you, because it can be just added support for you.
So some people might find that conversation quite difficult, telling someone for the first time. What advice would you give to them?
it might sound silly because it's your emotions, but it's best to plan what you're going to say, and it's best to be very, very truthful and honest. If you're too worried about other people are going to think, you might stump the help that you're going to get. It's better to just be as honest as possible, and don't worry about how people are going to perceive you, because in the long run, it's better out than in.
So how can you support a friend who's experiencing things that aren't there?
If you're sitting in a situation and your friend is starting to have those sort of symptoms, hearing something, hearing voices, hearing whatever that's bothering them, and it's something that you're noticing, the best thing is to divert their attention from it. So like asking like questions like, what did you do today, or anything like that that can just totally
bring you back into
reality, basically. Obviously hearing voices kind of takes you a bit out of your norm. So to bring you back into it, it's best to have like little questions, trigger questions to just bring you back.
So it might put quite a lot of pressure on that friend if they're, they want to support their friend with what's going on, but it might feel like there's a lot to take in. How could they support themselves?
There's added help for them as well. There are support groups for families that have other family members with problems as such. And it's important for them to find someone that they can confide in as well, because it's not easy caring or loving or trying to help someone with problems of their own.
Yeah. So
it's always important that if you are a friend trying to help somebody else or a family member, to also take care of yourself, like to know that there's time for you as well, and that there's support for you as well.
Definitely. And what are some of the things that help you look after yourself?
I try to be as active as possible. Active, going out, going for walks, to gym, etc. I try to be as verbal as possible, so I try to speak about what's happening. I think that's helped me loads, like talking openly about my issues and my struggles with my mental health. And I feel like if I hadn't have spoken about it openly, I would have definitely still been really, really struggling.
I can imagine that can be quite tiring as well, having this other thing that's going on for you that's quite big and that nobody knows about it.
It was literally like living almost like in a different universe, like and transitioning back and forth. But when I started talking about it, it just became a part of my everyday life that I learnt to deal with, rather than having something that I shun away from or I was ashamed of.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Well, thanks for having us.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.